Hi, this is China Today Lecture 4. In this particular lecture, I'd like to look at who is Xi Jinping, the current president of China, or the current chairman of the Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party. Let's revise a little bit about the new China history. So let's look at the generations of Chinese leaders. The first generation leaders will be Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping, these two Persians. Under their 30 years rule, China is constantly in revolution and there's a constant struggles between the class. Until Mao died, China is ruled in this kind of turmoil, this kind of chaos. Then after Mao died, Deng Xiaoping come along and open up. After he opened up, then we have 10 years of pragmatic government under these two guys. Then comes another 2 generations of engineers. So this is the first one, and this is the second one. So now Xi Jinping is the 5th generation. So in order to talk about Xi Jinping, it is important to understand how he come from and what is his relationship. So let's look at his father first. His father is Zhap Zhongguan. Okay, this is in Cantonese. His father died in 2002, May 24th. His father actually is a communist rationary, and is a political leader right from the very beginning. So his father actually started the communist guerrilla bases in the northwest China in the 1930s. So after the Mao took over China, he was involved in the top leadership of the Chinese government. But during the Cultural Revolution, because he was framed by somebody over something, so he was out of favor. And actually, his father was under guardianship or in prison for almost 16 years until the Cultural Revolution finished after Mao died. And he is vindicated after the 11th or 3rd plenum of the Communist Party. Then from 1978, he started serving in the Guangdong Province Committee, and he is also the one who proposed to start the Xinjiang Special Economic Zone. So later on, his father is being elected back into the Central Committee, and during the 5th National People's Congress in 1980 September, then he served as the National People's Congress Law Committee. So by that time, Xi Jinping will have finished his schooling. So back to Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping is the first leader who is born after Mao took over China. So he himself didn't participate in the revolutions, in the Japanese War, etc. His education is being interrupted when his father was accused of having some wrong kind of thinking in a book referred to, so that have a significant impact on him. He wrote in Chinese that this is one of the greatest influence on his life. During this time, his aunt from his mother's side taught Xi Jinping that you are still young. You don't have to afraid of anything. You can start your life again. And what is more important is that you actually get yourself into the common people and understand it and start from there. So Xi Jinping has this so-called leadership training from his family quite early. So after the Cultural Revolution, Xi Jinping continued his education. But the stories about Xi Jinping is that he is quite a good leader, but books are not his most favorite pastime. But anyhow, he graduated from the top university, Tsinghua University, and then after that, he have to face a so-called tough choice. What will he do in the future? So during that time, his father actually arranged for Xi to serve as a personal secretary to Jinping, and the then vice premier and the secretary general of the Central Military Commission. That gave Xi quite a bit of exposure to the military in China. That part of the experience is somehow missing from the official resume of Xi Jinping. There's no mention of the rank nor any picture of Xi in army uniform. But we do know that Xi has accompanied his boss to overseas troops and served as a secretary to his boss. Then in 1982, he made a very surprising change. I don't know whether he actually discussed this change with his father or not, but anyway, it is a surprising change from being a personal secretary to one of the top leaders in the Chinese military to suddenly becomes the deputy party secretary of a small county. So that is a quite a surprise change. But his path through this local works through the county, then promote into the province, and then the province changes from the less wealthy province, and eventually he end up at the top at Shanghai. So his political career has been spectacular, probably because of his relationship with his father's relationship with the rest of the ruling elite. There's a concept called compensation in the current Chinese leadership. During the Cultural Revolution, several of the original Chinese Communist Party leaders has suffered. So some of them were killed during Cultural Revolution and so forth. So the party, in a way, want to compensate for what the party have done to their previous leaders. So the second generation from this group of elite Communist Party leaders are given a lot of chances. Obviously, Xi enjoyed this particular opportunity. Among them, that is divided into two groups. One group is this second generation's father or mother is killed during the Cultural Revolution, or not killed after the during the Cultural Revolution. For those whose parents lost their life, then the chances is always limited to commercial and financial. They will not be given the political chances. Xi belongs to the second group, in which his parents survived the Cultural Revolution, so he can advance through the political system. Politically, Xi is quite low-key. There are three sentences in Chinese here, so let me explain what they are. The first thing is he promote a concept saying, let me translate directly into literally first. It's a dumb bird will fly first. The dropping water can penetrate a stone. So that reflects his idea. That means, well, if you take the first fight, even if you are dumb, you probably will have the first worm. And by continually doing the same thing, eventually you will break through. And his young lives also have allowed him to see another aspect. Well, this is the second sentence in Chinese here. Um, what what it means is that when you are in a good position, of course, people will come along and be friends with you. The problem is when you are in the poor situation, these people will very quickly turn away from you. So he has seen that himself during his youth. So he understands this kind of going with the powerful and then disbanding people with no royalty. So he understands who is loyal to him and who is not loyal to him, or who is loyal to his father and who is not. So he has a very pretty good understanding of that one. Another one, he is more like the Chinese way of being soft but persistent, just like a bamboo. A bamboo is flexible. It will, when the wind blows over, the bamboo will bend. But as soon as the wind is gone, then the bamboo will come right back. So he adopt this kind of personality. He will not face the attack front on, but he will insist and he will come back again. So that's one of his characteristics as described by some of the people who know him. Another thing is he is very calm. And he also understanding being a government official and being rich is mutually exclusive. So he is one who, in a way, is uncorruptible, because if he fully understands, if you corrupt, then you can't be a good government. He is also famous to have said that one step, one footprint, no need to be perfect. So he wants to move forward step by step, and if there's a mistake, correct it and then move on. He also have a very skillful human relationships. He handles the crowd well, and he is commonly regarded as a good man by both his superior and subordinates. He's always smiling, very approachable, and he looks like a Buddha. His father has always teach him to work with the crowd, work with the people, and obviously he take that into his political life as well. His quick advance probably is also due to his insistence of being politically correct. He always try to maintain an attitude in line with the party and respect the revolution tradition. He showed consistent loyalty and aligned with the party values, and therefore he got a chance to promote pretty quickly. The interesting fact is that when he was young, when he was being sent to the village, when his father is out of favor and was in prison, he tried to apply to the youth party 8 times and failed. And then later on, when he became an adult, he applied to the Communist Party 10 times, and eventually he was a member of the Chinese Communist Party when he was 21, which is considered to be quite late for the descendants of the first generation leaders. When he is handling controversy, his tactics or characteristics can be summarized in these 4 points. One is he will make a surprise and the unpredictable initiatives. He will start it first. When he recognizes a problem, he will not shy away from the problem. He will make a move, and the move is surprising and unpredictable. The move will be followed with very strong initiatives. Then, after the initial strong moves, then it will change into a tough but flexible, consistent persistence. He will just keep on working on it, So in a way, when he make up his mind, his content might look different. It is only the packaging. The chief ideas he want to achieve will always persist until it is successful. So let me give you several examples of that. The first one is the air defense identification in the East China Sea. So that was announced in 2013 November, almost suddenly. So this shocked the whole East Asia, and the US and Japan deliberately sent aircraft flying into this air defense identification without notifying the Chinese. So, Chinese they come and no counteraction. So people will say, okay, China under Xi Jinping is just a paper tiger. But on the third day, Beijing clarified what they mean by ADIZ, the air defense identification, saying that it is not a territorial claim. It is just a defense identification. So when aircraft is flying into this zone, because we don't want to have a misunderstanding, we want you to identify yourself and let Chinese Air Force knows beforehand. And again, there is precedence of such an action by the United States. So by claiming that, so all the noises died down, and he achieved his East China Sea's air defense identification zone is now being recognized. In terms of dealing with the several territory controversies between Vietnam, in May 2014, the China National Offshore Oil Drilling Platforms moved suddenly into the disputed islands. Of course, at that time, there's an intense anti-Chinese campaign in Vietnam and caused some casualties. But during the exploration left early. So instead of the original time, the platform actually left 25 days later. So by August, the Vietnam sent in a special envoy to visit China, and the relationship is restored. But after that, Beijing has left a precedent in the light of the international law and sovereignty. So another example comes from his dealing with the Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama, is the political leader of the Tibetan people. So the message from Dalai Lama is always that they want to have autonomy, but they are part of China. So that is the stand of Dalai Lama. So when Xi Jinping in 2011, July, said during the visit to Lhasa, saying that Dalai Lama is attempting to split the motherland, which will be surprising to the people there because his father has always maintained a very good relationship with the people in the Tibetan area. So his son saying something like that is considered a very strange message. Then in August 2014, when during the a India media then quotes the party secretary of Tibet, which is under Dalai Lama, saying that Dalai Lama especially has negotiated Dalai Lama going back to Tibet. So she sent the representative to communicate with the government in exile, and the exile government voluntarily changed the title of the prime minister into the chief commissioner of Tibet, reflecting the sense that Tibet is part of China. What the Tibetan people want is autonomy. At least this is now the official line of the government in exile. In terms of the dealing with Japan, she acted very strongly, but at the same time have a very tight control on the army, so that although there is conflicts like the warships getting very close to the disputed island by both sides, but there has never been a shot being fired. So by exerting a very strong presence in the Diaoyu Island, in, in the face of Japanese sending their warships, the Chinese warships and the Japanese warship facing each other, but she gets a very tight control of the army or the navy so that there is no mishap. In terms of dealing with the United States, she proposed the idea that Pacific is large enough to accommodate both China and United States. Same for Africa. Africa is large enough to accommodate China and United States. So basically, he is not directly confronting the the United States, but he insists on sharing the stage. I have a few interesting photos to show you. The first set is two leaders. One is Obama, another one is Xi Jinping, and meeting the same guy, the Emperor of Japan. So you can judge what is the relationship between the Emperor and Xi compared with the relationship between the Emperor and Obama. Another picture I'd like to show you is a photograph taken during the 2014 APEC meeting in Beijing. So look at Xi Jinping. Is that a smile? Let me show you what is Xi Jinping's real smile looks like. This is Xi Jinping with Obama. So the smile increased. What about his best friend? Now that is the smile. So you see, Xi Jinping actually understands foreign policy and understand how his personal expression reflects the relationship between countries. This is the group photo of the 22nd APEC meeting in October in 2014 in Beijing. Now, in this kind of photographs, we will have to notice who is standing at the middle. The middle obviously is the host, and then the relationship of the host with the other leaders of the world will be reflected from the distance from the center. So where Xi Jinping put Obama? Well, I don't make it up myself. This is from the web. She arranged Obama to be in a Vice Club. I think that also reflects how Xi Jinping thinks about the relationship between China and the four other countries. This is again another picture. This one is taken shortly later in Australia here in the G20 meeting. So the guy in the middle is, of course, our Prime Minister Tony Abbott. Then next to him, on one side is the Japanese Prime Minister Abe. On the other side is Xi Jinping. And again, that also reflects the position of China in the world stage at the moment. So let me also look at some other political commentators' observation about Xi. First of all is our Chinese previous Prime Minister Calvin Rudd of Australia. He noticed that Xi is obsessed with maintaining the central authority of the Chinese Communist Party. The example Calvin Rudd gave is that Xi Jinping emphasized on cutting down the corruption in the political system, and he considered that that is a vital task. If the corruption in China is not under control, then the party might lose the legitimacy or the ability to govern. So to see it is very important, and he is spending a lot of time to make sure that the parties always stay on top. Obviously, from Calvin Rudd's observation. Another observation from Calvin Rudd is that she wants to re-gear the Chinese economy. We know that in 2014, Chinese economy slowed to 7.4% GDP growth, which is the lowest in the past 25 years. So the task at hand at Xi is how to make this growth as a new normal. This new normal growth at around 7%, up and down around 7%, becomes a continuous growth capable by the Chinese. According to Calvin Rudd again, the China wants to continue to seize what its official lexicon calls a strategic opportunity to increase its global influence. Now, remember in the first lecture of this series, we talked about the principles passed down by Deng Xiaoping, saying that the Chinese in the world stage will keep in a low key, don't do anything initiative, but all this changed under Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping proposed quite a number of things during his office, or at least at the beginning of his office. So one sign is that last week, I think that referred to March meeting with the Seoul between the foreign minister of China, Japan, and South Korea. The dispute about the Diaoyu Island, or the Japanese call it the Senkaku Islands, can be laid aside if both parties willing to cooperate. But if Japan want to remain claiming the sovereignty of these islands, then they will meet with a very tough response from Xi. Equally, a breakthrough cannot be no longer ruled out between China and India on their long-standing land border dispute. But China is now trying to lower the tension in Asia. China is not interested in getting the high tensions between different countries. China wants to rise peacefully. That is the main message from Calvin Rudd. Another former U.S. diplomat and the Asia specialist, Stapleton Rowe, talked about to reach a GDP per capita comparable to the Europe average by 2049. Now, the 2049 is the 100th anniversary of the communist rule of China. So within 100 years, what she wants China to be able to do is to achieve a per capita living standards similar to today's Europeans. So this is so-called a part of the China's dream originally proposed by Xi. So this particular observation is shouldn't be a new observation from anybody who has been watching what happened in China. So that concludes this particular lecture, and there are some references here. So one of them is in Chinese, and the others in English. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy this. Bye-bye.